light indicators. We're still going to be talking about that. Let's move on from Awaken to Autopilot. Let's just talk about only yeah, let me do more of the actual color theory part instead of just talking about Awaken versus Autopilot. So let's just go back to, hey, back to the original thing. So, light indicator. Oh, the writing's already way better than the first video. Ooh. Okay, so light indicator is that guy on the uniform, on the fatigues, Phoenix Coalition fatigues. So let's just go over the color, the conceptual color theory of how this works. The RYB? RYB. Yes. So, RYB color theory for the light indicator. I need to keep this open just to make sure I'm getting the right. Yes, RYB. Okay. Letters confuse me. So, we have 5 wards in Chrome Asylum, which are white, yellow, blue, red, and black. Based on the ward that you're from, and this doesn't have to be like, oh, you're born in this ward, therefore you are forever in white ward. No. So there are wards that you're native from, but you can always move, right? It's like moving to a different state or a different country, and then your light indicator can change colors. You know, you just change the configuration or whatever. So people that are, so let's go ward by ward and just kind of work with the RYB color theory in case you forgot from elementary school. So we got white ward, and their light is, actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do a different layer per ward because it's gonna get all crazy. It's gonna get crazy. This just has that. Okay, let's keep that there just in case. Okay. So we have white ward. So white ward, their color indicator, their light indicator, excuse me, will be white. So this means, as we discussed in the last video about Autopilot versus Awaken, the white light for white ward equals Awaken. That's their Awaken state. However, if they are in Autopilot, then it turns off. But it doesn't technically turn off. It's more of like, it's so dark black, it looks like it's off. But it's actually kind of purple. Okay, and you can barely tell that that's purple. Just the way I like it. So you can't even see it. I mean, if you really look, you can see it. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to lighten it, but it doesn't actually look purple like this. Okay, put one dot in there. So this so dark purple, it looks black, or so black, so dark, it looks off. Okay, let's do this instead, just so we don't claim it as purple. So it's basically the opposite, right? I know a lot of people are like, white's not a color, black's not a color, it's just the absence of color, or it's all the colors, whatever. Okay, I'm not playing that game. Okay, for this to work, we need this to be this way, okay? And I don't want just 3 wards, okay? So this is just the way it's gotta be, okay? There is, you gotta suspend disbelief, or I don't know if that's the correct way to say it, but suspend, suspend. I don't know. It doesn't matter right now. Of course it matters. Ah, shoot, man, I gotta look it up. Suspension, no loose ends, okay? I just want to figure this out. Okay, it is suspension of disbelief. What's dispension? Okay, so dispense is the act of giving out or being exempted from a rule. I guess you could technically say this is a suspension of disbelief, right? Or of belief. So there's suspension of belief, disbelief. Suspension of disbelief or suspension of belief. That's an interesting concept. We might play with that in the future. Anyway, so we have white ward. White light is awaken, and this kind of UV dark purpley black off, quote unquote off looking light is their version of autopilot. So if a Phoenix member is awaken, so they're from white ward, their awaken is white, autopilot is very, very dark, purpley, blackish color, because the opposite of white is black. So that's how we got there. And then, I'll turn this off. No, we'll keep it. So then we have yellow. Okay, wait, hold on. To play with this really quick. Actually, no, I'm not gonna deal with that. Let's cut that a little bit out. Okay, so we'll work on yellow. Okay, so yellow. So let's kind of jump into yellow here. Yellow ward. Okay. I guess I should have made that white. Oh well. So for yellow ward, stop it. Your light indicator. This has nothing to do with inner light versus inner darkness. Okay, this is like its own independent system. Yellow for yellow ward is awaken. I hate when I do that. And then, so the opposite of yellow in RYB color theory is purple. See, now you understand why this has to be like kind of a really dark purple or black, because it just immediately is confusing. So let's use a different purple for this then, like a more baby purple, just for example. So this would be more of like a quote-unquote true purple in this way for autopilot. For what's it called? Yellow ward. Just because it needs to be easy to read for other Phoenix members and even the patients of Chrome Asylum. Just to understand, okay, they're from this ward, they're in an awaken or an autopilot state. I have an idea of where they are consciously so that I can adjust expectations, and whether they're on a mission or in a base or whatever, it's like communicating. It's a different form of communication that's clear, that's said without being said. It's kind of like for sports, you know, sometimes an injured player will wear a different color than the other teammates because it says without saying, hey, I'm injured, be careful with me. It's kind of similar to that, but autopilot isn't necessarily negative. It's just, I mentioned this in the previous video, autopilot is just a little more emotional because it's the subconscious being in control rather than the consciousness. Now let's move forward. We have white, yellow, blue. Everyone loves blue ward. Blue, they're just a basic blue. It's nothing crazy. All these colors are just like the purest color. It's not like a weird shade of blue. I'm just trying to get the most basic, fundamental RYB kind of shades here. These aren't canon shades or anything. So then we have blue ward. So blue, as you can see the pattern emerging, is awaken. And maybe we can see my handwriting get slowly better over time. And then the opposite of blue in RYB is orange. So we got orange. as our autopilot. Cool. Just like that. And then we move forward. You can see the pattern. We got red is Awaken. I don't know why my angling just slowly is getting sharper over time. Red, the opposite of red, is green. So you can see that it's a general system, right? And the more aware of the system, the more it communicates, right? Subconsciously and consciously and preconsciously. So these all work together with the different states of consciousness. Because I guess you could say that seeing the color and not having to be told, it kind of, in a way, it protects your energy, your conscious, subconscious, mental energy, you know, of, oh, I see that, that means that. You know, it's kind of like when you're reminded of something, of information you already know, or like, maybe that's not a good example. Let's say if you see a concept you've learned, or like a better word is like an acronym, you know. If you see, you know, MIA, you know what that means. So it's a kind of like, you see this, that means that. This saves mental energy, right? Instead of saying missing in action, you know, it's just a shortening. So that's kind of like what this symbolizes, is it's kind of like a visual acronym. I don't know if that needed an extra explanation, but there you go. So then we have black. Yep. And all these wards, they symbolize the instrumental heaviness of music. So you have white being the lightest type of, I don't know what I just did, dude. You have white that is the lightest, gentlest type of music. And then you have black ward, which is the heaviest, darkest. Not necessarily darkest, that's not fair to say. Heaviest in general music. So yes, metal. Absolutely metal. So as you saw, I did the same thing as here, because the opposite of black is white, opposite of white is black, so we just gotta kind of work that out real quick. Yeah, white ward and black ward are the only ones like this, which I think is so funny, because white and black aren't real colors. I'm just gonna count it as a color. I don't care, man. I feel like they should be included, you know? I keep doing that, and that's really annoying. So black ward, Awaken, and then you have white, which is their autopilot. So you see the problem that starts here, because you have this problem. This is a problem. And stop it. This is also a problem, okay? That's the only problem. And that's kind of where there has to be some nuance with, like, maybe changing the color just slightly so that it's not painfully obvious and even confusing, you know, that one is the other and the other is the other. So that's where, personally, I need to work on this, because I don't have the exact color codes figured out. I think it would come down more to whether they're more emotional or not, because autopilot is the subconscious in control versus the consciousness. So I think you would just be able to tell based off the emotional integrity, not integrity, that's the wrong word, the emotional impact or relevancy of one versus the other. But personally, I want to work on this and figure this one out. But yeah, that's pretty much how the light indicators work, showing which are the other. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that.